The chains beneath the planet-black dust covered everything. The prison moon had no sky, only thick clouds of smoke and the sound of pain. Deep below the surface, chains dragged across metal floors, echoing in the darkness. Jace, a human prisoner, walked barefoot through the cold tunnels. His wrists were locked in steel cuffs. 2 alien guards pushed him forward. He had lost count of how many days he had been here. Maybe weeks. Maybe more. His skin was bruised. His lips were cracked. But he still had one thing the guards couldn't take. His mind. He remembered his home on Earth. Green trees. Warm rain. His little sister's laughter. But now, that felt like another life. As the guards dragged him through a lower level, he heard something. Crying. It was soft. Broken. It came from the far side of the tunnel. Jace looked that way, and what he saw made him stop. A cage. Inside the cage was an alien woman. Tall, thin, with glowing blue skin and long silver hair that was dirty and tangled. Her arms were chained above her head. Her back was covered in bruises. She was shaking. "Move!" one guard hissed, pushing Jace forward. But he couldn't stop staring. "Who is she?" Jace asked, his voice rough. The guard laughed. "That? She's nothing. A traitor, a breeder who thought she could speak for her kind. What did she do? Doesn't matter. She dies tomorrow." The words hit Jace like ice. He looked at her again. She wasn't a monster. She was just a mother, and she was about to be killed. That night, Jace couldn't sleep. He lay on the cold prison floor in his cell, staring at the rusted ceiling. The woman's face stayed in his mind. Her eyes, they were full of pain, but also full of something else. Something that hadn't died yet. Hope. The next day, he was sent to clean the lower halls. He asked about the cage, but no one answered him. Still, he found a way to pass near it again. She was still there. He walked slowly, pretending to scrub the floor. He spoke without looking at her. "Can you hear me?" he whispered. There was silence. Then a soft voice replied. "Yes. What's your name?" Jace asked. "Ayla." "I'm Jace, from Earth." Ayla turned her head. Her eyes met his. They were deep violet, filled with tears. "Why are you helping me?" she asked. "Because they're going to kill you. And I can't just watch." She closed her eyes. "My daughter. They took her from me." "Where is she?" "I don't know. Maybe dead. Maybe worse." Jace felt a deep anger rise inside him. This place, this cursed moon, was full of lies, full of cruelty. But now it had given him a reason to fight. He hit a small piece of metal he found earlier. It was sharp. Not much, but it could open a lock if he was careful. He made a choice. He was going to break the cage. That night, Jace returned again. The guards were asleep. He moved slowly, carefully, through the tunnels. He reached Ayla's cage and crouched near the lock. "I'm going to try something," he whispered. Her eyes widened. "You'll get killed. So will you. And I'm tired of watching people die." He slipped the metal into the lock. It didn't work at first. He kept trying. Click. One shackle opened. Ayla gasped. Suddenly, lights flashed. Sirens blared. Someone had triggered the alarm. "Go," Ayla said, pushing him. "They'll catch you." Jace looked at her. "Not without you," but she shook her head. "You have a better chance alone. I'll hide. Save my daughter if you can." Footsteps came closer. Jace nodded, then vanished into the shadows. Ayla watched him go, her wrist free for the first time in years, and for the first time since her world fell. She believed someone might save her, someone who wasn't even her kind, a human. The warden's cruel. Smileyla sat in the shadows of her cage, her wrist finally free. The cold metal still clung to one arm, but one shackle was open. It felt like a dream. No, It felt like a warning. She could still hear his voice. I'm not leaving you behind. Jace, a human who risked everything in a prison not meant for his kind. Why? Why would he help her? The answer didn't matter now. The alarms had faded. Guards were searching every level. Ayla curled her body under old rags, hiding her hand, hiding her face. Her heart beat fast, not from fear, but from something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. But hope in this place was dangerous. Jace was back in his cell, bruised, bleeding, but alive. He had led the guards on a chase through the old water tunnels, only to let himself be caught near the furnace levels. He told them he was lost, confused, hungry. They believed him, barely. But the punishment came swift. He was thrown to the center of the yard. All prisoners were called out to watch. The warden arrived. Warden Scar, a 10-foot monster of a creature, with skin like cracked stone and red eyes that glowed in the dark. He wore no armor. He didn't need it. Everyone feared him. The warden didn't speak at first. He walked around Jace slowly, studying him like a piece of meat. You ran, Scar finally said. Jace kept his head down. You think you are special? Human filth? You bleed just like the rest. Scar motioned to the guards. One of them held a shock whip, black, coiled, and humming with power. Jace didn't flinch. Scar smiled. Make an example of him. The whip cracked through the air. Pain exploded across Jace's back. Again and again. The prisoners watched in silence. Not one dared to speak. Not one dared to move. But from the far corner, in the shadows near the cages, someone did watch with wide eyes. Ayla. She saw every strike, every drop of blood, and something inside her broke. This man, this human, had helped her. He could have escaped alone. He didn't. And now, he was being punished for it. A scream rose in her throat, but she buried it. Not yet. Not here. She had to stay alive. She had to stay smart. But from that moment on, she made a silent vow. She would not let him die here. Later that night, a secret voice whispered into Jace's cell through a vent. You shouldn't have helped me. Jace raised his head. Blood still ran down his back. He smiled through the pain. Was worth it. You'll die. Not if you help me now. Ayla was silent for a long moment. Then she said, There's a door. Under the black pit. It leads to the oldest tunnels. They sealed them decades ago. I know the way. Jace's heart raced. And your daughter? If she's alive, she's not here. They took her to the labs, beyond the gate. Then we'll get her back. You can't even walk, she said softly. I've survived worse. Ayla's voice trembled. Why? Why are you doing this? Because you don't belong in chains. Because no one does. That night under a dead moon, something powerful was born. Not just a plan, not just an escape, a bond. Between two broken souls, one human, one alien. Both abandoned, both beaten, but not defeated. The next day, the warden came again. But this time, not for punishment. He stood before the prisoners with a different smile. Cold. Hungry. A new shipment arrives soon, he announced. Younglings, soft, weak, some of your kind may see family. Do not cry, do not beg, they will be processed. Ayla's heart stopped. Younglings. Children. Her child. She bit her tongue until it bled. The warden walked past her cage and stopped. He leaned in close. You look better, traitor, he sneered. Is hope keeping you warm? Ayla said nothing. Don't worry. You'll burn soon enough. He walked away laughing. And that's when Jace knew. They couldn't wait any longer. They had to move. They had to burn the cage. And the fire had to start now. Sparks in the dark, the prison moon slept. But only on the surface. Deep below, where the black walls bled heat and oil, something moved in secret. Sparks flickered behind the furnace vents. Broken wires hissed. And beneath it all, footsteps crept. Slow, silent and desperate. Jace limped through a tunnel no one used anymore. His back still burned from the whip and his hands were blistered, but he didn't stop. He held a small tool he'd stolen from the furnace room, a heat cutter no bigger than a pen. Not strong enough to break steel doors, but enough to melt through weak joints. Enough to make a path. He stopped in front of a sealed hatch. It hadn't been opened in decades. Rust covered the edges. Danger signs written in alien script still blinked in faded red. This was it, the forgotten route. Ayla had told him of this path. It led to a lower deck, one the guards thought was dead. Power was gone, but tunnels remained. Hidden, narrow, and leading straight beneath the prison's heart. If they could get inside, they could reach the lab, maybe even the child. Nyari, her name echoed in Jace's head. He'd never met her, never seen her, but he carried her mother's pain like it was his own. He lit the cutter and pressed it to the hatch. Sparks hissed into the air. Ayla felt every second pass like a knife against her skin, from her corner of the cage. She counted the guards. 3 had left their posts early. 1 had fallen asleep. It was working. The distraction Jace planned was already changing the pattern. Soon, the alarm would sound again, but this time they would be ready, she whispered to herself, touching her neck where a scar burned. Her people had once believed in energy, life force that connected all things. Her powers, long buried under pain, were returning. She could feel them again, not strong yet, not full, but enough to hide, enough to move, enough to protect. She prayed her daughter could still feel her across the walls. "I'm coming, little light," she whispered. The hatch groaned open. Jace crawled into a narrow shaft filled with steam and dust. Pipes ran along the walls like veins. Each step echoed and the heat pressed against his face, but he smiled through the pain. He was in. He followed the map Ayla had drawn in the dirt. Every turn, every crack, past a collapsed chamber, past broken lights. He saw old machines, twisted bodies, melted armor, long forgotten by time. This place had once been a battlefield. He didn't want to know who had lost, but as he moved deeper, he saw light ahead. Faint, flickering. He ducked and crawled forward, only to freeze. A group of guards stood in a lower hallway, guarding a door with strange red symbols. Not normal guards. These were silent, heavily armed, and didn't wear the prison's colors. They were from the labs. And behind that door was the truth. He had to get closer. Jace turned back and raced toward Ayla. The plan had to change. Now. The lights in the prison flickered, then died. Alarms blared, doors slammed, and screams filled the halls. Guards shouted over the intercom. "Security breach, lower decks offline, all units respond." The prison was falling into chaos, exactly as Jace had planned. Ayla broke her last chain using a sharp piece of metal hidden beneath the cage floor. Her wrist bled, but she didn't feel it. Not now. She wrapped herself in a black cloak made of prisoner cloth and slipped through the gate Jace had left unlocked. No one noticed her in the panic. She ran, and the ground shook beneath her. In the lab, a scientist stared at the small alien girl sleeping in a glass chamber. Nyari. Her breathing was weak. Tubes were stuck into her skin. Machines recorded strange numbers on screens. "This one's energy is still unstable," the alien scientist said. "But she's rare. We can harvest from her soon." Another one nodded. "Her mother is still alive. They may share a psychic link, then prepare to sever it, burn the signal." Behind them, a vent cover began to loosen. Dust fell, and Jace's eyes peeked through the darkness. He had found her. He had found the child, but he wasn't alone for long. From the hallway, Ayla appeared, blood on her hands, her eyes glowing violet. And, for the first time in years, her daughter saw her mother. "Mama." The whisper stopped Jace's heart, but then came the sound of boots. The guards had found them. "Run!" Jace shouted, grabbing Nyari from the chamber. Ayla turned and unleashed a wave of energy that slammed the guards into the walls. Lights exploded, smoke filled the hallway. They were running now. Ayla, Jace, and the small child in his arms. And behind them, the warden's voice roared through the prison speakers. Kill them all. The child in the furnace, the smoke was everywhere, hot, black, and thick like oil. Jace held the child close to his chest as he ran through the burning hallway. The small alien girl, Nyari, barely moved. Her breathing was shallow. Her eyes opened just a little, and when they did, they searched for one thing only. Mama. Ayla was right behind them, her steps fast, her powers flickering like sparks across her skin. Her violet eyes burned with fire and fear. Keep going, Jace shouted. Alarms screamed from every wall. Security breach. Subject escape in progress. Soldiers dropped from vents. Machines crawled from hidden doors. One slammed a metal fist toward Jace's head, but he ducked just in time and kicked it off the ledge. Ayla raised her hand and sent a pulse of blue light through 3 guards. They hit the wall and didn't move again. But the sound didn't stop. Footsteps. Roars. Gunfire. The warden was coming. They reached the furnace level. It was the hottest part of the prison, where broken tools and useless prisoners were tossed and forgotten. No one ever came back from here, which made it the perfect place to disappear. Jace kicked open a rusted gate. Flames glowed below. Pipes hissed. And above it all hung a metal bridge. Old, cracked, and barely holding. Across, Jace yelled. Ayla hesitated. The bridge swayed. Parts of it were gone. The fall below looked endless. We'll never make it, she cried. But Nyari's hand gripped Jace's shirt. Mama. Cold. Ayla looked at her daughter and her fear shattered. She nodded. Go. They stepped onto the bridge together. It groaned under their weight. Fire flickered below like a hungry mouth waiting to swallow them. Halfway across, they heard it. Him. Warden. Scar. His roar echoed like thunder. Heavy footsteps shook the steel floor behind them. Stop, his voice boomed. Give me the girl and I'll let you die quickly. Jace didn't stop. He's lying, Ayla shouted. He always lies. A blast of red energy flew past them and hit the bridge. The metal snapped. The far end collapsed. Jace jumped, slamming into the ledge with one hand. Nyari dangled in his other arm, her tiny arms wrapped around his neck. Ayla dropped to her knees and grabbed his wrist. I've got you. Don't let go, Jace gasped. I won't, I swear. Behind them, Scar stepped onto the bridge. It didn't break. He was too heavy, too strong, and he was getting closer. Give me the girl. Ayla looked at Nyari, then at Jace. There was no way out unless... Ayla took a breath. Her fingers glowed. She looked at the burning vents below. Can you catch me? She whispered. Jace's eyes widened. What? Just hold her and jump. I'll follow. Ayla, no, trust me. And then she did, something Jace didn't expect. She kissed Nyari's forehead and she let go. She fell into the flames. No, Jace screamed, but instead of burning, she vanished into a pulse of light. A second later, a shockwave blasted upward. Ayla rose through the smoke, her body glowing, her chains melted, her powers fully awakened. The fire didn't touch her. It danced around her like it belonged to her. Scar stopped walking. Impossible, he hissed. Ayla's voice shook the bridge. I was never your slave. She raised both hands and sent a blast of light into the bridge. The steel shattered. Scar fell, and Jace, holding Nyari, leaped into the smoke. They crashed through a vent chute below, rolling onto a dirty platform filled with ash and wires. Jace groaned, shielding the child. Ayla dropped beside them a moment later. Alive. Glowing. Changed. Nyari opened her eyes again and whispered, Mama. Ayla held her close. I'm here. I'm never leaving again. But their moment didn't last. A red light blinked on the wall nearby. Tracker beacon. They were still being hunted. Ayla looked at Jace. We need to vanish. He nodded. Then let's burn the rest of this cage. And so the three of them, mother, child, and human, ran deeper into the fire, not to hide, to finish what they started. Burn the Kajash rained from the ceiling. The prison moon, once a symbol of fear, was now trembling from its core. Explosions echoed deep within, lights flickered, alarms screamed. And in the heart of the chaos, 3 fugitives ran for their lives. 1 human, 1 alien mother and her child. Jace led them through a tunnel marked Furnace Waste Restricted. Ayla held Nayari close in her arms. The little girl was weak but awake, her head resting on her mother's shoulder. Every wall hummed with heat. Every floor shook like it might collapse. "How far to the chamber?" Ayla asked. "Not far," Jace said, breathing hard. "I rigged the core vents last night. All I need is 10 seconds to overload the system." "Will it destroy the prison?" "Not all of it," Jace replied. "Just the part where they keep their worst secrets." Ayla looked down at her child. Good. Above them, the warden was losing control. Scar smashed a control panel with one fist, snarling at his soldiers. "How did a human outsmart you?" he roared. No one answered. "The mother had help from the old network," one officer stammered. "Her powers are returning." Scar's eyes glowed red. "Then take everything. Soldiers. Machines. Send them all. I want them buried. I want them gone." Jace reached a metal hatch glowing from within. He opened it slowly. On the other side was the furnace control room, a space of red lights, steam vents, and broken walkways. This was where the prison's power lived, and this was where Jace had hidden the spark. "What is this place?" Ayla asked, stepping into the heat. "The first place they brought me when I arrived," Jace said. "They wanted me to burn bodies here. Trash, bones, failure. And you learned how to break their fire." He walked over to a side panel hidden under a cracked floor plate. He opened it, revealing wires twisted around strange alien circuits. "I studied their systems," he said. "Took me weeks. But now, I can make the core vent the wrong way." Ayla placed Nyari down gently. The girl sat against the wall, silent but watching. "Will it kill you?" "Maybe," Jace said with a small smile. "But it'll kill them faster." She touched his shoulder. "You are not a weapon, Jace." He looked up at her. "No," he said, "but I can still break the cage." The first pulse hit seconds later. The ground cracked. Ayla grabbed Nyari and shielded her. Steam burst from the walls, and from above. They came. Machines with bladed limbs, wings made of metal, and red scanning eyes. Behind them, armored soldiers followed. And last came Scar. He leaped from a ledge and landed like thunder. Ayla stepped forward. "Stay behind me," she told her daughter. "You will not survive," the warden growled. Ayla raised her hand. Power glowed at her fingertips. "I already have." Scar charged. Jace shouted from the corner. "Ayla, now!" She threw a blast of energy toward the machines. They exploded midair, their broken limbs flying across the room. Scar roared and struck her with a chain. She fell. Hard. Jace ran across the burning floor and reached the final switch. 5 seconds. Scar grabbed him and slammed him against the wall. "You," he hissed. "You ruined everything." "Not yet," Jace said, coughing blood. "But I'm getting close." He jammed the final wire into place. 3. Ayla rose to her feet, face bleeding but eyes alive with fury. 2. She reached Nyari and shielded her again. 1. The vents blew open. Fire didn't rise. It fell. Flames shot downward, collapsing the foundation. Steel melted. Machines screamed. Soldiers vanished in the blast. Scar tried to grab Jace, but the floor collapsed beneath them. Jace caught a pipe and held on, staring into the fire. Scar fell into the core, roaring his last curse. "I should have killed you on day 1. Then, he was gone. The fire didn't stop. The old prison structure was burning from the inside. Alarms died. Doors melted. The cage was no longer just broken. It was gone. Ayla pulled Jace up from the wreckage. He was burned, but alive. "We did it," he whispered. "Yes," she said, holding him tight. "We're not slaves anymore." He looked over at Nyari, who was smiling softly in her sleep. "And she'll never remember chains." "No," Ayla said. "Only freedom." They walked together through the ashes, 3 silhouettes lit by fire. No longer captives. No longer running, but rising. The warden hunts. The fire didn't kill him. Deep beneath the ruins of the prison moon, surrounded by ash and molten steel, a monster moved. Scar, the warden, rose from the flames with half his body scorched and metal fused into his flesh. One eye burned white. His armor was gone, but the rage remained. He was no longer just a commander. He was vengeance. "Bring me the human," he growled. "Bring me the witch. Bring me the child." Above him, a black sky waited. And somewhere under that sky, they were still breathing. Jace, Ayla, and Nyari had escaped into the Frostlands. They traveled for hours through snow-covered hills and frozen tunnels that stretched across the moon's surface. Winds howled. Shadows followed them. They had little food, no warmth, and yet, they kept going. Ayla walked with Nyari in her arms. Jace followed behind, carrying a small metal rod as a weapon. They hadn't slept in 2 days. "We need shelter," he said. "Just a little farther," Ayla whispered. "There's an old mining village hidden under the cliffs. My people once traded there before the war. They reached it before sunrise. Half buried in snow, the village was nothing but broken buildings and forgotten machines. Yet a soft light flickered in one of the huts. Someone was still there. They knocked once. A rifle met their faces. "Turn around," a voice said. "No strangers." "We have a child," Jace said, raising his hands. "She's sick. We mean no harm." The old alien behind the door looked down. His eyes softened when he saw Nyari. "She's one of us. Please," Ayla begged. "Just one night. Food. Warmth. Then we'll go." The door creaked open. One night. Inside, they found 5 more villagers, scared, tired, forgotten by the galaxy. They had heard stories of the prison burning, but didn't believe it was real. Until now. "You're the ones who escaped," one whispered. "And now they'll come here," said another. "They always come." Ayla stayed quiet. Jace didn't argue. They just wrapped Nyari in thick cloth and let her sleep. For a moment it felt safe, but not for long. Scar stood on a hill of ice, breathing steam. His soldiers had been burned, but he still had hunters, machines, weapons that didn't sleep. He sent out a signal, a blood beacon. If the girl was still alive, her energy would answer. And it did. Scar's broken mouth twisted into a smile. "Found you." The next night, Jace stood watch outside the hut. He stared at the stars, wondering if any human ships ever passed this moon. Wondering if Earth even knew what he had done here. His thoughts were broken by a sound. Soft. Strange. Ticking. He turned. A red light blinked in the snow. Hunter drone. "Ayla!" he shouted. The ground exploded behind him. The hut shook. Villagers screamed. Flames rushed through the wooden walls. Scar's machines were here. Ayla grabbed an Nyari and ran. Jace tackled one drone and jammed his rod through its core. It sparked and died, but 2 more followed. The villagers grabbed old rifles, firing from windows, defending their home. "This is your fault," one cried to Ayla. "Then let me end it," she said, stepping outside. The sky lit up with fire. Scar dropped from the clouds, riding a war beast with metal wings. His body was half machine. No, more fire than flesh. "Give me the child," he roared. Ayla's power pulsed in her hands. "Never again," she said. Scar leaped toward her, but this time she didn't dodge. She met him head-on. The blast threw both of them into the frozen fields, fire and light crashing like thunder. Jace ran to protect Nyari. Villagers helped him hide her inside the mines. "She'll be safe there," one old woman said. But you must hold the line. Outside, Scar rose, dragging chains made of fire. Ayla stood before him, hair glowing, her voice steady. This ends tonight, Scar grinned. Yes, it does. Jace picked up a weapon. Then let's finish it together. And in the snow, under a burning sky, the final war between the chained and the free began. Rise of the broken snow turned red under a broken moon. The frozen field near the village had become a battlefield. Fire clashing with frost, chains meeting light, blood meeting steel. Ayla stood firm in the snow, her glowing hands raised, facing. Warden Scar won last time. Scar was no longer a man or beast, he was a burning monster. Half of his face was metal. Fire hissed from his back. His left arm was a cannon, pulsing with molten light, and his voice was pure hate. You can't stop what we built, he snarled. We are the law, the chains, the power. Ayla's eyes glowed violet. No, you're the last dying echo of a dead empire. Scar roared and charged. Ayla met him with a blast of light. The air cracked. The ground split. Fire and energy collided, with a force that shook the mountains. Inside the old mining cave, Nyari woke from sleep, clutching her chest. Mama, she whispered. Jace knelt beside her, holding a broken blade in one hand and a signal beacon in the other. You need to stay hidden, he said. No matter what. Are you leaving? She asked. He smiled, even though blood dripped from his lip. Not without you. He stood, turned toward the cave's exit, and paused. Someone stood at the entrance, not a soldier, a villager. Then another, and another. Men and women, old and young, walked forward, holding mining tools, old rifles, even sharpened sticks. You stood for us, the first villager said. Now we stand for you. Jace blinked, stunned. We're not soldiers. No, the old woman said. But neither were you. Outside, the fight raged. Ayla slammed Scar into the side of a cliff, but he grabbed her by the throat and hurled her across the field. You're weak, he growled. You were always weak. Ayla rose slowly, blood on her lips. You're wrong, she said. I was just alone. Scar lifted his cannon arm. A blast fired, and before it could hit, Jace stepped in front of her. He took the full blast. The snow exploded. When the smoke cleared, Jace was on his knees, barely breathing. Scar laughed. Pathetic human. But Ayla was already moving. She reached for Jace and whispered a word in her native tongue, a word that meant bond. Her hand glowed. Her energy flowed into his chest. Healing light spread through his body. Jace gasped, stood, and when he opened his eyes, they glowed violet too. Scar took a step back. What did you do? Ayla and Jace stood side by side. We became more, she said. Human and alien. Pain and light. Broken. But together, they attacked at once. Ayla unleashed a storm of psychic force. Jace, burning with borrowed power, moved faster than Scar could react. They struck him over and over, cracking his armor, breaking his weapons, pushing him back step by step. Scar screamed. He lifted a final weapon from his chest. A core, bomb powerful enough to destroy the entire valley. He activated it. If I fall, you all fall with me. But before he could throw it, Nyari stepped out of the cave, alone, her hands glowing, the same light her mother held, the same light Jace now carried. She reached out, and the bomb shut down. Scar froze. His fire died. His eyes widened, not in rage, but fear. Yes, Ayla whispered. She is the future you tried to kill. Jace stepped forward. And she just saved everyone you tried to break. Scar took one last step back, and then the villagers came. They didn't attack, they simply walked forward. Dozens of them, staring, refusing to bow. And Scar, the warden of pain, fell to his knees, defeated. Not by weapons, not by fire, but by something he never understood. Unity, hope, and the rise of the broken. Days later, smoke still curled from the ruins of the prison moon. But something new had begun. The villagers built fires not for survival, but for gathering. Songs were sung. The chains that once held them were melted down and used to build bridges, heaters, and wind towers. Ayla stood on a hill watching the sky. Nyari played below her, smiling. Finally free. Jace stood beside her. "You're not going. Back to Earth?" she asked. "Not yet," he said. "Maybe not ever." She looked at him. "Then stay. Not just for us, but with us." He smiled. "I already did." Above them, the stars seemed brighter, and somewhere far away, in dark corners of the galaxy, others whispered of a human who burned a cage and freed a world, and they whispered another name too, Hope.